we're going to dive right into this because we're going to have a recap. And plus, I'm going to make this Never Surrender podcast very personal. Okay. I want to give a special shout out back in the San Francisco Bay Area to the Kaywood family, to Kevin, Carla, to one person I have not had the pleasure of meeting, and hopefully, God willing, real soon I will meet her, and that is Kayla Kaywood. Reason why I'm going to give them a special shout out is because their late brother and excuse me, their late brother. This is hard for me to talk about this right now, so I'm a little bit nervous. My apologies. The Kaywood family's late brother and father, Kurt Kaywood. We've been friends since 1974. Kurt Kaywood was close friends more with my big brother, Michael. And initially, his life and inspiration just gravitated to me more than anything. And I had decided, with God's help, to dedicate Never Surrender to the legacy of Kurt Kaywood. It's going on 2 months that Kurt Kaywood had passed away. His memorial service was last month, and he was more like a brother to me than a friend. And losing him was like losing my big brother all over again. And that is why I'm having somewhat of a difficulty even now talking about this. Getting a little bit easier, not, but, you know, got to move on and everything. And today's broadcast of Never Surrender, as I make this personal, I want to dedicate this to the legacy of Kurt Kaywood, and I will talk more about him later on and what he means to me. Okay, so again, I want to give a shout out to the Kaywood family, and thank you again to for your support and allowing me to talk about your late brother and father. To Miss Norma back in Northern California, I want to say hello to you and thank you for helping me in this situation as well. So, Miss Norma, I just want to give you a shout out as well. So, we're going to have a little bit of a recap here for those who've missed the initial podcast and then part two. Basically, I talked about in part one and part two is, and it's very connected to what is happening in the Middle East, especially in Iran right now. Because what's happening in Iran right now with the death of the Ayatollah Khamenei and 40 of his top brass, including his wife, and now his son is taking over. More on that in a moment. Falls into the prophecy about the book of Esther in the Old Testament when the Persians of that country, which was then Persia, was basically given a death sentence by an evil ruler named Haman. He creeped his way in right under the nose of a drunken, gluttonous King Ahasuerus and just took over. And his plan was basically to, you know, put the Persian Jews in captivity, work them to the bone for money, for greed and power, and then annihilate them. And then at the same time, while he's prime minister, he does a coup and becomes king of Persia while knocking off King Ahasuerus. That was the plan. But God Almighty behind the scenes reversed the plan. And Queen Esther, for such a time as this, through her godfather, Mordechai the Jew, was used to expose the plan, and Haman and his 10 sons were hung by the gallows. That is the biblical reference to what has happened. Also, we've had parts of history for such a time as this